Why now? Why this second? Why this moment in time? And what I would say is when I look at what I really truly believe in my heart of hearts is that probably realistically, I just think he knows it's time, right? And we talked about this a little bit with Jim Harbaugh the other night. The fact that, listen, with Harbaugh, maybe this just is the perfect time for Jim Harbaugh to exit college football. Big Ten's getting tougher. He won a national championship. There are some legitimate NFL jobs that could be of interest to him. And so when Jim Harbaugh decides, whatever Jim Harbaugh decides, it's like, it feels like, okay, if he decides to leave, now is a time that ultimately makes sense in terms of why you would want to leave now. And for Nick Saban, I think it's kind of the same thing. We'll get quotes from him. By the time you listen to this, who knows? Who's to say what his actual reasoning is? But when I look at Nick Saban, I do wonder, is it just time to step away? And is the sport changing so much, so rapidly? We talked about it in the post-game national championship reaction. Is it just one of those things where it is time right now to say goodbye? And when I see his retirement, what I think of is actually, who I think of actually, believe it or not? It's Coach K. Now, it doesn't sound like we're going to get the retirement tour, thank God, with Nick Saban. But when Coach K retired, right, everyone said, oh, he doesn't want to deal with NIL. And he's been getting away for years with not being able to pay players. And now the players get paid. And of course he leaves. And I remember John Shire kind of being asked about the whole situation. And John Shire basically said, Coach K is not scared of NIL. Coach K has been a proponent. He's been an advocate of NIL for years. And so when John Shire spoke about Coach K, what John Shire said was ultimately like, it's not about that. What it's really about is, listen, Coach K is a planner, an organizer. He was a military guy. And if he's going to do NIL, he wants to do it right. What's the plan for the next 6 months? What's the plan for the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And so with Nick Saban, I thought of that today when I found out that he was retiring. Not that he's, scared because Texas and Oklahoma are coming to the Big 12. Not that he's nervous because players are getting paid. But I just thought, like, the SEC is going to look a lot different. College football is going to look different next year. And frankly, it's probably going to look way different 3 years from now than it does right now. And so assuming this retirement sticks, assuming it's not Tom Brady 1.0, not 2.0 when he actually did retire, I think this is what this is really about, is like Nick Saban survived in the NIL era and thrived early on, winning an SEC title, signed a number 1 recruiting class last year. He has handled the portal. But as we go to the next iteration of college football, as we go to a tougher SEC, as we get away from divisions, as now you're playing Georgia every other year, Texas every other year, Auburn, Tennessee, LSU every single year. It's just like, do you want to do this? Do you want to figure out what the plan is for a 12-team playoff, how to recruit, how to prepare, how to game plan, how to this, how to that? And so when I sit back, that's what I think it is. Not that he's scared, just that, hey, do I want to spend the mental energy to figure out what college football is going to be 8 months from now, let alone 18 months from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? Do I want to figure out how we're preparing a team with 2 weeks after the SEC championship game as opposed to a month? Like, these are things that I think a guy like Nick Saban, who every minute of his life has been defined, I think that's what this comes down to. And so to me, that's probably why he retired. And I think the obvious next question is, just talking for a moment about his legacy, and then obviously what's going to happen next for Alabama. So in terms of the legacy, listen, it goes without saying, man, this guy is the GOAT. He's the godfather. Like I said, he's just a guy that, like, he was so much more than just a college football coach, right? Like, even again, to go back to Coach K, college basketball, it's a different world. It's a different era. But even throughout all of it, Coach K withstood kind of the test of time in multiple eras, reinvented himself. I think it's the same for Nick Saban. You think about Nick Saban and everything that he has done here over the last couple years. First of all, I think that is his greatest gift, is that he did it time after time after time in different eras. Like, the funny part about the conversation about, he's just afraid of the transfer portal, of NIL. You know what the truth is? Every rule that has been put into place over like the last, 15 years has been put in place to slow him down. Every single one. Remember the offensive rule changes, and he said, is this what we want college football to be? And then he figured it out. He hired Lane Kiffin, and he was awesome. The transfer portal. Oh, all of a sudden he goes, gets Jamison Williams. He gets whoever, Henry Toto. I can't remember all of their transfers. Jameer Gibbs, he turned out pretty good, I'd say, as he's getting ready to play in the playoffs this week. The one-time transfer, NIL. Remember, Nick Saban in May of 2022 was screaming about Jimbo Fisher. In December of 2022, he signed the number one class in college football. So NIL, supposed to flatten the playing field, supposed to slow things down. He ends up figuring it out and being as good as anybody. And so when I think about him, one, I do think that's his greatest gift, is the idea that this was a guy that figured out every iteration of college football at all times, at every moment, was always able to kind of figure out what the next step is, what's next for his program, and how to not only what the next step is, but thrive. Like I said, the offensive rule changes designed to slow him down. We'll hire Lane Kiffin. NIL isn't really working right now. He thinks Texas A&M is doing something. Let's go do this. And so to me, that was his greatest gift. Now, in terms of the bigger picture, listen, we get hyperbolic in sports all the time. And listen, you know me. Torres is as guilty as anybody of of getting hyperbolic. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube or on Twitter, make sure to drop some questions. I'll answer some questions at the end. But I bring it up because, listen, we all tend to get hyperbolic. But at the same time, what Nick Saban did, I don't believe will ever happen again in the history of college football. Took over in 2008, was it? 2007? By 2008, he has number one team in the country. I believe up until this year, his team was ranked number one every single season of his tenure at some point. And obviously the rest speaks for itself. 6 national championships. The stat that everybody threw out. This class that just left as juniors, that left after 3 years, is the first class to play for Alabama under Nick Saban that played 3 years for him that did not win a national championship. I just think as the sport is changing, as it's evolving, as it's getting, recruiting is national, the portal is opening things. I don't think we're going to see anybody win 6 titles over whatever, a 14-year span, 15-year span like he did. The rest of the stats are unbelievable. I mean, even if you just go to the Wikipedia page, I know Wikipedia, like just reading off a Wikipedia page is stupid sometimes, but just listen to what Nick Saban's resume is. Just listen to this. Okay. So starting in 2009 at Alabama. So year 1 struggles. They lose to UL Monroe. You probably heard about it. Year 2, they go 12-2. Year 3, 14-0. 10-3, 12-1, 13-1, 11-1, 12-2, 14-1, 14-1, 13-1, 14-1, 11-2, 13-0, 13-2, 11-2, 12-2. I feel like Ace Ventura, when he has to stop and catch his breath. That is unbelievable. How about this? Ole Miss, and listen, Ole Miss, I understand historically is just not Alabama. Ole Miss just completed their first 11-win season in school history this year. Let's take a quick look here. Nick Saban's last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 seasons all had 11 plus wins, including this one. And so he's going out on top. What he has done will never be replicated. And my last real thought before we get to some candidates, I think the bigger picture, I hate to say it because I'm going to miss the guy so freaking much. And he'll be around. He'll do TV. He'll be in Aflac commercials with Coach Prime. But like the thing that I'm going to miss the most about Nick Saban is also something that I do think ultimately could potentially help college football. Is I do think with Alabama gone, I think it kind of opens things up. Like I said, we're not going to get, I don't believe ever in the new era, an 8, 9, 10-year run like Alabama has seen. And so that's what makes him the GOAT. That's what makes it different. But also with college football, I think we're going to get a lot of what we saw this year. Michigan and Washington, not necessarily, neither really emerged. Washington won 11 games last year. Michigan, of course, made the playoff. But I don't think it's going to be Bama, Bama versus Clemson, Bama versus Clemson, Bama versus Ohio State, Bama. Like, I think we're going to get more because the talent is spreading, and then you add that extra layer to the college football playoff. I think we're going to get, any given year, a Texas emerge. A Georgia obviously is not going anywhere. And Ohio State is going to have their year. Michigan's going to have their year. Like, I think it's going to be a much more balanced playing field. And for the health of college football, I do wonder if it's going to be better for everybody else, to not have Nick Saban there. But this is a sad day, man. Like, that's my biggest takeaway. This is a very sad day for college football. I cannot believe that we are at this moment where Nick Saban is about to retire.